One. Yes, we are on live. What a beautiful word we have here, because it excites me to use a technology. We have free airtime. We have democratization of information and democratization of the voice. So nothing excites me more than the millennium, where people found their platforms, people found their avenues to raise certain issues and also to find their voice. So thank you once again, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vicky Esther, GDM-Metropolis Productions. GDM stands for Global Digital Metropolis, and of course, Singapore being the platform of the metropolis. And you can find us on the Facebook group, the Platinum Platform, GDM Productions. That's by myself, Vicky Esther. And it is 10:40 p.m. Singapore time, and this is Good Friday. We are Friday today. Bless God and bless everyone. And you know, it has been such a transformation of history since 2020 to 2021, and then we are into 2022. How God has protected each and every one, that we are still here. And of course, those who have left us in very difficult times in humanity, which we must not forget history, God will continue to bless their families. So without further ado, I'd like to also give my blessing to Miss Karen Alston, and she is live from USA, United States of America, Savannah, Georgia. And we are right here in Singapore welcoming you. Karen, tell us, Karen, how are you?
I am excellent. And yes, to all the viewers, it is a Good Friday. We are excited to be present with you all this morning. Thank you so much, Vicky.
Yes, and before we go into the formal session proper about the goals of today's session, I'd like everyone who are with us to tune into either on Facebook, Talk About Life, okay, YouTube Talk About Live, or Facebook group, the Platinum Platform, GDM Productions. The Platinum Platform, GDM Productions, GDM-Metropolis Productions, and that's where you can find us. You know, today it's such an honor to have Karen again. This is part 2 of a very special publicity promotion about what she does. So in the first episode, part 1 last week, Karen and we shared about almost 50 minutes of what she stands for, her philosophy, and what she does, and who she is. I would like people, all of you ladies and gentlemen, viewers, listeners of my podcast, please go below to listen to and watch part 1 of Miss Karen about what she does, particularly in the arena of domestic violence. And she's also she's also nationally certified. So that's National Certified Advocate for Domestic Violence. And that's certified by the United States of America, national. Okay. So we don't play around her. You know, she's like a person who's going to like tell you exactly, you got to take care of yourself, girls, and you got to make sure that you protect yourself, you keep yourself safe, and you keep the people around you safe. And she's got a very important message. But before we even do that, a very important message, we will talk about something casual now. We are into April in Singapore. It is summer all year round. You see the photos in Facebook. We can all be in bikinis going to the beach at any time of the year. And it is a safe country. You don't get mugged, you don't get raped when you're in the street. And I think there's a lot of very strong women here, because, I think there are women who really fight back with their heels. This is a place where it's very welcoming of the international community. We are an international hub, and Singapore is opening to the world with something we call vaccinated travel lane, whereby international travelers can come in with a certificate of vaccination and with and you can actually do your self-test kit with your self-test kit after you arrive by yourself. And there's no quarantine or isolation needed unless when you arrive, you get positive, right? So I think Singapore is opening to the world again. Any chance of Karen and husband visiting Singapore, this part of the world, Karen?
Yes.
Tell us.
Yes, I don't even have to think twice. Yes.
Yeah,
we would definitely be planning that. I think it would be an awesome opportunity, very educational, and just to be able to go to a place so beautiful, another part of the world of God's creation, you know.
Oh yes, and
absolutely.
Also we did talk about the probably a global convention for humanity, right? We'll see where God leads us, because I spoke to a couple of fellow friends, fellow podcasters, Annette Wittenberger, and also I talked to that Ralph Ave. I say that, hey, your job is to raise funds from sponsors. And also, Karen, I mean, you've got to get the big companies, right? We are just small people trying to do it. I mean, there is a saying, okay, we pull our resources. Whatever we can, we will do and contribute. We raise our voice, we give our ideas, we champion a cause. People with the money, they put in the money. People with the sweat, they put in the sweat, right? Yes. And that's how a house is formed. The brick and the mortar, right? Mm-hmm. The nuts and the bolts. So let us pray about that and see where God leads us, Karen. And I'm so intrigued, and I'm really wondering if one day God put us all together and meet each of us physically, and then we all can have cafe at the beach.
Yes, what a time that would be.
You never know. Okay, Karen, let's go into part one of our session formal. Last week you spoke about your brand, and you remember I said that you stand for survivorship, right? That's your word. That's a new word from the Webster Dictionary, the American Dictionary. Now, survivorship, and through survivorship, you gain freedom from the trauma, freedom from violence, freedom from people taunting you and your life, right? Freedom from threats, mental threats and physical threats. So we're talking about survivorship, and that was something I see that you stand for. And you, of course, you stand for speaking up for the people's voice, women's voice, men's voice, people who are going through very difficult domestic violence, or in general violence physically, or violence of the mind, right? People can crush you. And look at what Me Too movement has done to a lot of girls or women, because it took their power away. And I face that too, you know. It's not just sexual violence we're talking about. What about in a corporate company?
Yes.
Right? When you are being shamed in public, for example, in an unjustified way or unqualified way, your power is being taken away from you. Right? Yes. I mean, there's many different ways. Now, violence doesn't work just within the four walls of a room in the house. It could work in a corporate setting. It could work in a school, right? Yes. It could even work on a virtual platform. Look at the social media, the trolls, the haters. Now, that's also violence inflicted on people in social media. So we're talking about violence in many different forms that is being evolved as environment changes. So last week we talked about Karen being the expert in that area. Karen, today we want to talk about part one, about your platform, but again, repeat what you stand for, and then about your platform, what your platform stands for, Karen. The floor is yours.
Yes. Yes. Again, as speaking from an expert, speaking from a survivor, speaking as a person who has been through this and going from one level to another level, some days are high, some days are low, of really understanding what being a victorious victim on the road to survivorship actually means and what that looks like. And so as the CEO and founder of For the Jewel and You Global, it was important for me to first look within myself and determine where were my weak points, where were my strong points. And just like you said earlier, Vicki, when we talk about the different types of abuse, it's not just physical abuse, but we have the sexual abuse. We have psychological, emotional, and verbal abuse. And sometimes the words that comes out to degrade a person can hurt just as bad as when you physically are trying to attack me, and the financial abuse of controlling the finances. And even though I may be working in a corporate corporate company, but then I'm not in control of my finances. I go, I make the bread, but I have no say-so on how things are spent, all of that. And so there are multiple forms of the abuse. And so and all of that is so important in this. Definitely I have went through, just speaking from my own self, of going from one abusive situation to another abusive situation, until I actually got to that point where I was so sick and tired, and I really had to just ask God, what is wrong with me? What is happening? Why am I repeating this cycle? So when I come and I speak, it's important for the transparency of what has happened, and then how I actually got back to knowing who I was.
Yes. Karen, you talked about psychological violence, right? Words that inflict so much pain in you and gets into your soul and your being. And that happens not only to children, it happens to adults, right? And you look at some of these social media situation whereby there are people, the trollers and haters, who really literally is able to tear someone down, even with just text messages. And it gets into you, and it can really bring and crush someone's spirit, Karen.
Yes, because you're humiliated. It goes to a form of humiliation. They're putting you down. They're trying to intimidate. And even with people of authority, that's what they do. They feel that sometimes because they are, big corporate owner, or they are a pastor, or because they're a great actor, they're a great motivational speaker. And even when something doesn't feel good, but because they're such in power, they have that stage of empowerment over individuals, then sometimes they can say things, and whether it's wrong or right, people will gravitate to that. And it causes the person where the triggers and all of abuse and all, it just makes you like, maybe I shouldn't say nothing about this. Because they're saying it, everybody's gonna believe what they're saying is so right, So it's a depriving.
That goes into like you're talking about someone in a person of authority. They're in a position of power, and you're made into a position of subordinate in inverted commas. And because you're in a you are in a more subordinate position, you have got less power, you are the weaker person, you tend to believe or submit or trust what the other party is saying. And that gives you give that power away unconsciously already. So tell us about, Karen, that's powerful. Tell us about your platforms and tell us about where we can find them. How do you develop and start it? What was the inspiration behind? What's the philosophy, and who are your target audience for these platforms, and what are the takeaways and the stories behind the people who are in it? So it's a mouthful.
Yes. Yes. So again, my organization is entitled For the Jewel in You Global. We are a 501c charitable organization, nonprofit here. And one of the reasons why I said it's for the jewel in you, because again, we talked last week about how individuals that wants to take total control over you, they begin to chip so much away from you till you lose who you are. And that's the point of being where you become the victim, because they control the way you think, the way you act, where you go, where you should not go, you know, when to eat, how to eat, what to put on, what not to put on. All of those things happen in that whole scenario there. And I've heard individuals where they say, well, he didn't hit me or she didn't hit me, but then they use the verbal abuse. And abuse to me is abuse when it begins to chip away your whole being, and you become that person's pawn to inflict upon you, you know.
And very often you don't even know it, because it's subliminal, right? It goes, and like what you said, it chips away your self-belief. It chips away it kind of rips apart your identity slowly, right?
Yes, and you know something is happening to you, but at times you can't even identify it. And I can remember that in some of our round tables where mothers and their children have sat around my dining room table and began to discuss certain things that are happening in their life. And I can remember one young lady, she was like, oh my goodness, I didn't even realize. She said, I did not realize that I was in an abusive situation.
Tell us about this roundtable. Tell us about these roundtable sessions that you've got.
So the roundtable, it started, and this is how I really went on to going from one platform to another platform. Was we started around my dining room table. It was on Sundays. And a group of ladies would sit around the table, because that's what you do. The kitchen table is where you sit, you talk, you enjoy each other, you get to know each other even the more. When we talk about the old times when you sat at the table and cooked, this is what we would do. We would cook. They would bring in, you know, their favorite dishes, and we would talk about relationships. Like I would ask questions like, you know, we would ask those questions because I was doing the researching on how, when someone does this to you, how do you feel? And it became a safe place that we were able to open up and talk about either the experiences that we were in or past experiences. So it had to be a safe place. There
must be safety, there must be total trust, there must be no judgment.
None.
And there must be
judgment-free zone. Total judgment-free zone. And then from out of those talkings, I realized that enough of us were not speaking out against domestic violence. A lot of us were not saying no to this. Now, when I'm talking about these round tables started over 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yes, sitting around the table and talking and getting to understand what was happening and why individuals would not come out also and ask for help. Or if they did go and ask for help, what was the experiences? Some will go to the wrong counselors, where counselors would then take advantage of your vulnerability.
Wow.
They would take advantage of your hurt and pain, and then they will cause more infliction, because then that's when the sexual abuse and everything will come about, because they're now, and you're not healed, and then before you know it, you're again trapped into something. Because I went and I talked to this particular counselor or a particular pastor, to try to get relief and help, but then they took advantage of what I was saying in that vulnerable time, and then people close back up again. So the trust is broken, and I need Karen, to understand that.
And Karen, I thought this is powerful, and this is a natural and progression into what we're going to talk about in part 2 later on about workshops. Because you started off with a very powerful round table where people feel that trust, and to create, and that round table, you created an environment where people are willing to speak up without judgment.
Without judgment.
Yeah, without judgment. I think this is so important.
And the encouragement to even say to them, you're okay. You are a jewel. You're great. So that, and then,
So and that dovetail. So that dovetail into your platform, the jewel in you, right? Where can they find this platform?
Yes, definitely. We do have our website. So we do have our website. And again, I have to continue to tell the viewers that it is the number 4 for the jewel, and the letter N, the letter U, for the jewel in you. I wanted to emphasize the words in and you, because it's within us. Each and every one of us are beautiful, and we're wonderfully made, know.
And then you will see the notes either here or here description.
Yes.
If it's the YouTube, the description is here. It's on Facebook. The description is up here. Okay, that's your platform.
And we also have another one.
Tell us.
But I'm also aware that I shall speak for you action, and that's where individuals come together and they decide that, yes, I pledge that I will speak for her just by encouraging, just by praying. But not only that, but I will get the education so that I understand what the individuals are going through. So we have 2 platforms.
Okay, tell us when did the platform start, and then what's the target audience, and how are they responding to your platforms? And tell us a couple of stories from each of these platforms.
Yes. For the Jewel in You, we became actually incorporated in 2017. But we first started out, we were actually known as Heavenly Stitches, because I was like, we were stitched all back together.
Oh, wow.
And so we just started transforming as we started looking at what we need to do. And I want to tell individuals, it's okay if you have to stop and rebrand, refocus, so that you regroup. Yes. Do a whole reformation, do the right things for that. And so that's what's happened. And so with that particular audience there, we do community events for the Jewel in You. We give back to our community. And so For the Jewel in You, we provide transitional financial support. We are not a shelter. So when individuals come to us, we want to try to provide them with, if they need bus passes to get back and forth from the shelter to work. If the abuser took their car away and they can't get they can't get back and forth to work, so we want to provide them with monthly bus passes, so that they don't lose time for work. They get the transportation that they need.
I see.
Or their finances have decreased. They do have a car, so providing them with gas cards to help them with that.
Wow.
Also,
tell us, how do you raise funds for these people? I mean, these are non-profit organization.
yes.
How do you get you and your co-workers get paid? How do you fund your organization, and how do you fund these people who need the funds? I mean, we're talking about real help here. We're talking about you need money to buy food.
Yes, we are completely volunteers. So there is no payroll.
Oh, well, let's give Karen a round of applause with all your colleagues there.
Yes, there is
with a round of applause.
Yes, we do not have government fundings, and so we depend so much on our the public, the community that comes in and support us with awesome in-kind gifts. Some of them are financial as well in this whole processes. But we have, which we're excited, we do self-defense classes and awareness for teen dating violence. We have like mom and daughter night out that they come out and they learn self-defense the correct way, and how to use the tools that are recommended by our police department. We have ladies' nights out for self-defense where the ladies
I immediately need you here. I'm sorry.
Yes, and so they're not just learning the tools, but they're getting the awareness, the educational pieces as well. Okay. We have our annual.
We will talk more about the tools and your events at the part 2. Okay. Tell us about, which is important because I don't want to lose any of this very important information, because you're talking about tools, education, and some of these things that people can learn from your platform. Tell us about the other platform. Speak for her.
I shall speak for her.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when we talk about really listening to know that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
I first started off with a podcast, and it was entitled Domestic Dialogue with Denise. Denise is my middle name. And when revamping, and we already know that, we talked about last night, I have a true belief in God and in his divine intervention. And he said to me, take your name off of this. This has nothing to do with you. And I was like, wow. And as I lay there, I came up with the survivor's heart. It's a group of us where we speak from our heart. The survivor's heart. Voice to voice, the survivor's heart should speak. And during the pandemic, we couldn't get to people like we needed to. Everything shut down.
Yeah.
And so that meant that because of the pandemic, the violence was increasing, just going out of control. It was increasing. And so that's where the I Shall Speak for Her platform came out, where I said I have to use
a digital platform.
Yes, and build this platform more so that individuals will be able to share their stories, and that they can see the transparency of it. And so that's where that came about. And I tell you, when we started doing it, within 2 weeks, we already had 300 individuals that came forth pledging that they said, I shall speak for her. And the most beautiful part about it was not only were they women, but husbands and wives came together and said, yes, put us out there. We want to learn more. They wanted to learn more, just not about the different signs, but knowing what to say, how to say it, and when to speak to a victim of violence. Yes.
Yeah, Karen, such a powerful message that you've got, and such a powerful 2 platforms you've created. Tell us, are there 2 stories that kind of stand out amongst
Yes.
so many of your of your victims or the stories of survivorship? Are there two stories in particular?
Yes, I don't know if I mentioned on last week, but I'm so excited when I can see where there was I think I gave the 8, but there were 11 at the time that their mother was killed. The time that mother was killed, the daughter was 10 or 11, and the son was he was like 8 or 7 years old. But these were young children. And they came home from school and they found their mother dead. Her boyfriend had killed her. These young people have graduated from high school, going on to college. The first one was a daughter. Now the son is now graduating from high school and going on to play football. He has scholarships and everything. So when you see that even though something tragic happened to them, because of the love and the support and the counseling, to me, to get them in counseling, to get the help that they needed and make sure that these children had even a more stronger foundation, now they are still moving forward. So they're not allowing that their circumstances to define who they are. My goodness.
Okay, tell me that how long does this take, and what were the actions you took as a support group to support these children, this family?
Definitely maintaining close relationships and contacts with the aunts. Making sure that I was available for any questions, being invited to their church services, having the opportunity to speak and educate the congregation as well, making sure that I was there during the time when they did the visuals, to the for the funerals, the homegoing services. Wow. And now we're talking about this because we're saying that, if we say that the oldest was like 10 years old, now you're talking about she's at the age of where she's like 23 years old now.
Wow.
22, 23 years old. So in that time framing, it takes all of that to be there for them. They also are part of our volunteers to make sure that, and they participate. So which
meant that you were really involved and engaged at every part of their lives, at every touch point.
Yes.
Yes. And the thing is that it cannot, Yes. And the thing is that you are seeing them through different phases of transition and growth. And that they continue to be able to stand and then stand stronger and then stand up for others, right? That kind of growth.
Exactly.
And now they're going to volunteer to help others.
Yes, because when we're talking about, it didn't just affect the children, it affected the siblings as well. And to get up and see and hear when we do balloon releases and we remember them during each month, and the father getting up and saying, I forgive the other person for what they've done. These are powerful moments to hear when individuals say these things, because forgiveness is the key. There's no way I could do what I do if I did not first forgive my many perpetrators for what was done to me, because the forgiveness is for me so that I could be free, understand, and look at myself. So
sorry to interject, because I should give another session for you. This can go on. I would love that, to tell some of these stories. So this particular case took many years. It took almost over 10 years. And she's just a typical example, right? She's just a generic example. There are women of different stage of violence. They needed survivorship support, and you are the one, and your organization is the one that continue their particular journey, no matter at which touch point they are. So sometimes they come to you, sometimes you go to them. Am I right?
Exactly. And because of our platform, we have developed a trust, where in a transparency, trust, transparency, and truth. I've used that. Trust, transparency, and truth. Where other individuals, when they hear that somebody is going through a situation, they immediately say, call Karen, let her, and then I guide them to the correct resources. And the resources of what they need. The
local resource, right? The local resource.
Yes, the local resources. And those resources can be anyway, because we are global. We have the I Shall Speak for Her movement in Kenya, Africa. We have the I Shall Speak for Her in Rochester, New York, Jacksonville, Florida, Orlando, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona. So we have connections in these different areas. So we build our foundation. So when they come through, we're able to even make sure we have the information that they need where they live at.
Okay. So powerful. I would like you to talk about the second story at the end of part 2. We want to talk about this platform that we are trying to develop for Singapore, or that they can use online wherever they are, like a workshop. And the workshop in such a way that is structured. There's learning objectives. There are certain activities, certain questionnaires, certain self-evaluation, and of course, certain speakers like yourself, talks, information, empowerment, and then the learning results, the outcome. So we want to make it such a way that for people who are not in America, they don't have the touch points where you are in Savannah, et cetera, all these places. But if they do have a couple of hours, for example, if they are able to sit in and go through a particular workshop, they feel that they are armed with tools, with awareness, with knowledge, and then they go away with this knowledge, and they can further, I should say, share or spread the message, and further create awareness. It's almost like the tributaries of a river, So I'm just thinking that you have gone through this roundtable talks in the kitchen, to having develop this very powerful platforms, and then having this tributaries already in America, the touch points that people could go to or people could call, for them to reach out to you, your colleagues, or for your colleagues to reach out to them, to follow through, to see if they are surviving through. I mean, there are lots of times whereby people seem to be surviving, but then they fall again. I mean, I'm very sure that it's not going to be like a successful, smooth sailing situation that you meet them one time and they're going to be transformed the next day, because we're talking about a very dynamic situation here.
Yes.
Karen,
yes.
Tell us about this workshop that we're trying to develop, either for the Singapore audience or for your future audience. Tell us about what goes into, or what can go into a workshop within a 3-hour workshop, about objectives and tools they can use for identification, awareness, understanding, education, and then prevention of violence.
Yes. My platform in this area definitely has been recognition plus education is the key to prevention. And before I go more into that, over the past few decades, no one wanted to talk about domestic violence. It stayed behind the closed doors. What happens in the house, it stays in the house. And so during our decades of times, it's been discovered that family violence and domestic abuse is now being brought to the forefront of our consciousness, so that we can think about it and understand what we want to do. And so all professionals agree that domestic violence is a very complex and it can take many different forms of it. And so a lot of workshops and courses have been around the abuse, the victim, on the areas on how to get out of them, how to stay out of them, and how to build you up. Well, in our platform, when we talk about recognition, I always say, do you have to see my bruises or my scars to really understand and know my pain? When you just normally look at me, can you tell that I am in an abusive relationship? Absolutely not. So first, learning to recognize, knowing, how can you see me? And that's where the educational piece comes in. Not just knowing about the different signs of abuse, but also knowing what to say, when to say it, and how to say it when you're speaking to a victim of domestic violence. So this piece, and this is why recognition plus education is the key to prevention. We can't prevent nothing that we can't recognize or we don't know anything about. I can't hear you.
So how do you recognize some of these signals? Where do the signals come from?
And so that's where the courses, the educational pieces are all about, giving the different scenarios so that individuals can watch the individual's actions and then know how to perform.
Can you give us an example?
Yes, I'll give a great example. I am now also, I'm going to use this example because I'm excited about my next level. I haven't even put it out there yet. So your viewers are going to be the first to know it. I am now a part of the National Professional Beauty Association. And they have a piece called Cut It Out, where you trained salon owners, hair salons and spa salons, how you train them to recognize the different signs when a customer comes in to get their service. And so one key is, like a lot of hairdressers may say, how's your day to day? Or they know you because they've been serving you for so long. And you may ask them, how's the child doing today? Oh, she may not be she's not doing good. She's not, she's having some issues. And then they go on to ask about, how's your husband or how's your friend doing? And that person is very hesitant. Oh, things are not so good right now, and you keep going. And then all of a sudden they trust you and they begin to open up what is happening. And so you get to a point where you're not just standing behind them talking, but now you move front to build that trust. So you come from behind your chair. And so you're now listening to the person. And that is the key to knowing to give that person your undivided attention, to listen, and then not do any crazy outbursts like, oh my God, oh my goodness, it's happening to you, because now what you've done is you're taking the attention away from your client, and now it's on you, and everybody else in the salon can hear this. That's not the type of environment that you want.
That's
So
really
you have to,
powerful. Yeah.
yeah, you got to listen. And then when they say they don't want to talk, you have to get to that point and say, I understand, but just know if you want to talk, I'm here. And then you have the necessary tools in your hand to give to them so that when they get by themselves, they get to they get the necessary help that they want just by calling the National Domestic Violence hotline and get that information so that it's key to them. And so you're not putting them in a box and you're not turning around and putting your opinion on them.
Wow,
Like,
that's
even
really
though
powerful.
that is so huge on teaching individuals that, also teaching survivors that, because every situation is different, yet it is the same. The difference is where that person's mindset is at that time. Are they really ready to get out of it? And we have to be taught how to do that with real life scenarios.
Question. How do you identify that signal from a child? If a child has been abused, if you look at the Olympics last year, a lot of girls came out, gymnasts came out to say that they were sexually abused by the doctor that was assigned to them when they were so much younger, because they were young girls in the gymnastic team, right? They need to go through a lot of medical checks, and it was the doctor, right, that abused them. I mean, that was scary, right? And you hear them testify in Congress, the young girls. I mean, it's you read that huge news, right?
Yes.
So how do you identify these signals in children or in young adults that they have been kind of manipulated in their mind not to speak in many different ways? How do you do that?
That's very difficult, because when you're being abused, it puts it in a place where you can hide those situations. And I can say this not from a gymnast, but I can say this because when I was being sexually abused by a person of authority, and where people respected their professions, that inner child of you, that child moment that you're in, and I'm talking about at the age of 16. So when you've got people and your parents and your guardians that trust the person, you withdraw. It's very difficult for parents to identify and see some of those changes. And so it takes on a role of where, even though you're in a good environment where, parents are saying, you can talk to me about anything and all, even though they're doing all that they can, that child may still not say anything. And that's where the strength in numbers come. And trying to make sure that there's a safe place for them. And I would even suggest, my suggestion would be, because I come from a place of, what did I not have? When I look back over my traumatic experiences where I have triumphed from them, I look back and say, what do I feel that I needed? And that's where these round tables come from, where individuals are saying to me, when I was in it, I wish I had this. So even in that point of, I would say what I wish that I had was that a safe net.
Yeah, it's really almost like you need to have.
We don't think about counseling, that even though they have all these hours of training, you may not be the person, mom and dad, that they will talk to. So make sure that there is some cycle, that there is they can get that mental health check. That's it. They can get a mental health check with a person with no bias that they can talk to, and they begin to say, something's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's why like what you're talking about is so important, because you need to first create the awareness in the huge environment, in a huge macro society, the huge community, in schools, in the public arenas, in families, even with amongst girls. There must be awareness, and there must be no shame in the first place, in a huge cultural change, in a huge environmental change, that people should be able to identify if they already empowered with awareness and with education. That's what makes domestic violence or violence or abuse, slash abuse important. That educational part of it by the public, by the general public, and talking about it makes people feel that, hey, I can identify that because I was going through on my girlfriend, etc., right? So therefore, it really starts from that educational piece that you were talking about, and that.
And let me say this, Vicki, and that's why even when individuals come to me, that's why on my board we also have a mental health advisor. We have a psychologist on our board that when individuals have speaking to me, I refer them to get the mental health piece and
get the professional
interviewing, that process. So that it's designed for what they need. It's so important. And so I'm so glad that came to me again. They have to have a mental health check. It's okay to have a mental health check with your children when they're athletic, whether there's a boy or whether it's a girl. They need to have mental health checks.
Tell us about in a workshop, because the thing is that you've got such a vast experience and vast knowledge. How are you able to encapsulate all these things into like, I should say, bite-sized nuggets, right? For people to chew, understand, and then kind of like really think through, and make some of these concepts and tools stay with them. Because you are an expert, but how does it how is it made in such a way that it can be encapsulated and then like a cookie cutter given to someone to empower someone in your class in a particular workshop, and then at the end of it they say, I've got the tools, I've got awareness, and I know the signals, and I can take these things, and now I start a particular awareness amongst my girlfriends, my classmates, my co-workers in a company. How does that work, Karen?
It's important to not reinvent the wheel. So even after going through the workshops and getting the resources, doing real life scenarios and tools, that you join in with an organization who's already established doing it. And there are organizations out there. Like, I don't reinvent. I join in, like for instance, join in with the No More Foundation, joining in with the National Professional Beauty Association, joining in with their efforts, and then helping to make it spread that way. Can't hear you.
And enlarging the effort by joining like-minded organizations, like what you have said, in a local context.
Exactly.
In a local context, and also in a virtual context, in a digital context, right? Because people can always call you and
like
Zoom.
What we're doing. I'm not reinventing anything. I'm just grateful that I was invited to the table, but it also keeps me to sharpen. Like, you all are sharpening my tools. You're making sure that I stay on top of this. My board members, my volunteers, they make sure that we are checking we're checking everything. And Vicki, I've actually, I mean, I don't sound like it, but I have actually been, going through getting my health back together since like November. I've been through surgeries and everything. But when you get to talking about this, it just brings up a different thing, and so in this process is about my sabbatical time, making sure that I'm getting even more healthy. That's one thing I want to say when you're talking about taking up different causes like this, to make sure you're getting that support, people to undergird you, who are there to assist and don't come with any hidden agendas.
Yeah. In conclusion, Karen,
Yes.
I know this is like so compelling. We should follow you. Follow her in her Facebook groups. Karen, is there any final takeaway? Like, if someone is listening right now, what other takeaway? Is there a 5-step, a 3-step tool to freedom? I mean,
Yes.
It's simplistic, of course. You don't get into it. But is there such a takeaway tool? Yeah.
Yes, just a tool, because it's more to it. But one of the things that I could think about in order to steps to get out of this place, this place of darkness, to help you out. And I just truly believe that wherever there's darkness, the light still comes in. And so we want to continue to share that, to be that light. But a person listening to me, you have to stop all matters of self-sabotage. Stop sabotaging yourself and limiting your beliefs, because the perpetrator, they have brainwashed you. They have, you've been manipulated and all of these things. So you have to start empowering yourself, and you have to say, I can do this. I am worthy. I am enough. I am a jewel, those kind of things. And also, I had to get to the point where I actually had to stop blaming others for the situations that I found myself in. And so be true to that own self. No one has the right to abuse you, but I had to look at it and say, what do I need to do different so that I won't get into this situation anymore? Being real true to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because so often, we blame everybody. But there comes a point of accountability where we have to stand up and say, I deserve better. I deserve better.
Yeah, and I think you brought up the point about blame. And because when you stop blaming, you take back that power, because you start to stand up, you start to take ownership of your own future. But because when you're blaming someone, some situation, you're blaming yourself, it takes the power of you, because you're saying that this situation was due to something. But when you say that I own this, I can do it, I think that is empowerment by itself, Karen.
Yes, because an example, I can't control my money because, my abuser always took control of my account. They spent the money, they did everything, and now I don't know how to control my money. Stop blaming that. Get the education.
Yep.
Learn how to balance.
Get the ownership back. Get that ownership back.
Yes, and move forward. And I always go back to God bless the child that has her own. I can remember, and I'm gonna do it short because I can remember, like, I didn't have a place to stay. It was just so much, lights being cut off, always getting evicted and all. And I remember going to someone and asking them, was it possible for me to come and stay with them or stay in their vacation home? And they were like, you can't, why don't you go into an extended stay hotel? And I felt like, oh my God, I'm in this situation and they won't even let me come and stay with them, or I can't go and stay into a place that nobody stays in. And do you know that was an eye opener for me to say, I can't get mad with them. I got to take back control. I've got to do what I have to do in order to be a survivor.
Well, that is powerful, because so easily you get into the situation, you will say to, now, why aren't they giving me the help when I need it most? And then you start another blame, right? And that never starts, because you never get out of that. You never get that empowerment to say that I think I can do it, and I can do it. And I think, like what you say, getting faith is important. Karen, you are a person, I can see that your platforms are faith-based. God has given you a lot of energy, a lot of drive, a lot of inspiration in what you do. How much, what's the role that faith plays in this part, in your life?
In this part for me, it allows me, and there's something that I go through, just like I'll use an incident on last week. I had a call, and of course, you know, I've had major surgery. So I've been like really having to rest a lot, you know, just rest and do the things that I need to do so that I can be healthy. And what happens is, before even when a call coming in, I take that time to meditate. I take a few minutes to say, let me hear God. And I always say, Lord, show me their heart. Let me know what to say, when to say, and what not to say. Let me see their heart. I go into that point, because there may be a point where he may lead me to pray for them, and he may say, this is not the time to pray. Just give them what they need at that point. And last week, he took me to a whole nother level in a certain situation, to even after finding and listening to what they needed at that moment, it led me into the prayer. And I was about to get off the line, and he turned back and he said, offer them salvation. It blew me away.
Wow. Yeah,
and
you know,
I said, yes, because it doesn't matter what decision they made, whether to stay out of it or go back into that situation. I knew then that I had done what I needed to do at this particular point in their lives. Yeah. And that was so huge to me.
No, it's powerful, because you have to let God take care of that particular person, because there's only so much we can do as individuals. I mean, even with your own family member, right? If you stay in the same household, there's so much more. There's so much you can do. There's limitation, and and with God, and if they take that faith in them, they will find the strength.
They will find the strength, and even if they didn't understand, and I was, and I leave it like that, I'm always available. And I have to tell the millenniums, don't text me, call me. The millenniums, oh my God, this is just a tool. They text. I'm just, call me so that I know that it's immediate attention for me to pick up the phone and be there just to listen, just to be that listening tool. And it's also important that I have individuals around me who also believe in the power of prayer. So when I'm going down, they're lifting me both of my arms up, and they believe in what is happening. The other thing is also this: I don't have to go to do conferences or different workshops and platforms and and talk about Christ. Because I just believe that when you walk in the room, they should automatically see the light shining.
You are right.
There.
Exactly.
And so that when you speak, they know it's coming from a different place in there. And so that helps you to adapt to your audience. No, that helps your audience adapt to who you are.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
Yes, it's so huge for that. And And so that's so important. That's so important in this quest, in this. And so,
Yeah,
and that's where the
yeah.
forgiveness part comes in. When I talk about that,
Yeah.
forgiveness helps free us
Wow.
from this demonic spirit. It
And
frees us
yeah,
from this
and
bondage.
forgiveness comes from inside. It comes from the
Yes.
seat of the soul. And I think only God can undo that hurt,
Yes.
that ultimate hurt. And Karen, you brought up a very important point that I would like to wrap up with this. We've got over an hour of 10 minutes from you already. Oh, an hour of 20 minutes. Thank you so much. But I think as a Christ follower myself, and you can see I try so hard to read the Bible every day, and the thing is that to me it's so important because it keeps your thoughts right, and then you try to keep your steps right,
Yes.
and I think that for example, for someone to be reaching out, someone, a victim in a situation, to be reaching out, it would be much better if they're reaching out to a right source quickly. And a right source meaning that a source of help, like a platform that is faith-based, Christ-based, with yourself, like yourself leading your organizations and your platforms. Not only that you are giving the tools to them in a humanly fashion. It could be tools from the police, the self-defense tools, etc. But the philosophy of it, the spirit of it, the foundation of it is faith, and it's based on the inspiration of God. The inspiration from God, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I have this. Yes, because that's huge. And it's based on my faith. And I deal with a lot of different individuals from different nationalities and different religions and all. But it's all about the light and sharing in them because of that. If that makes sense. Because it's important that we reach all people. I cannot put myself in a box and say,
of course.
We just can't do that, and I follow, I used to follow some of the things from, and I have to give credit to one of a coach, and she was Crystal Sanchez, and, and it's always about, looking at things and to ending this of, saying, we have to really think about what we're doing. And when we're talking about that forgiveness and that we are learning, when we're talking about that, and that's universal. Forgiveness is just universal.
Definitely. And what I'm trying to reiterate is, because there are platforms, if they go to the wrong person, like what you say, they go to the wrong psychologist or counselor, just like a child who's gone to the wrong doctor. Right? So because the platform is faith-based, we at least ensure there's righteousness. We ensure at least there's rightness in what you do. So it is so important, I would say that to everyone, you've got to be very careful in selecting whom you want to place your trust with and to help you. You know what I'm trying to say? Yes.
So it's important. And it's important to, when you find the wrong person, to immediately, because something is going to happen.
Because you are a person of weakness. You can't see what's happening around
this
you.
Is not
You're
right.
weak.
What? That spirit will be on you, and you don't even realize that it has transferred within you, and you're back into the same situation.
Or people they're taking advantage of you.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of such situations in an unspoken world, right? And it's only years later that you realize that you are being raped spiritually inside you. So therefore, I just want to reiterate for any viewers any people who is a victim or suspecting that you're a victim because you have been ripped apart by someone's words, you've got to choose a righteous platform.
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
people do have to make their research and their decision.
Yes.
I think that's very important. I mean, you hear stories about widows, maybe the husbands died, or the husbands walked out of them, and another person comes into their lives and take away their finances, they take away their houses, etc. Because the trust was wrong, just because you are in that situation of need.
Right.
Yes, therefore,
Right.
I want to reiterate, anyone who chooses a platform, you have, I mean, God, I hope that Karen, you spread your word out wide so that people are ready to choose the right platform when
the right platform.
Yes, the
right
right and the
that
righteous
foundation.
platform. Yes.
Yes.
And then of course, because it is a right platform and because it is faith-based, we reach out to anyone who needs help, regardless of faith, religion, color, where you come from, a country, or your language. That's where a righteous faith or righteous platform is. So I'm trying to say both ways.
Right, because you're dealing with somebody's life and you're going to have to answer for that. You know, and so we must remember that every difficult situation or circumstances is an opportunity to learn and grow. So I say to those who are in these situations, learn from what you've been through and then grow into that. Learn and grow from your mistakes or things that have happened, because each lesson is an opportunity to strengthen your soul, your body, mind, and soul.
Yeah. So Karen, you know what I'm trying to say.
Mama,
exactly.
Daddy, leaders, nobody has the power to make us feel anything without our consent. Nobody.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to shine the light that a platform is good. A righteous platform is even better.
I love that. Yes. Yes. A righteous platform, the right platform. And I know my team members are just like, yes, because that's when I came into this year, I was telling them, we're reconstructing. We're looking at our foundation. We're trying to see what is right and what needs to be plucked up. Let's pluck it up. I'm so excited. We can go on and on and on.
Because I can read you, and therefore, like what I just said, it's so important for our viewers to keep coming back to our guests, because to episode 1 to episode 2 and episode 3, they know you better, layer and layer and layer. They get to know you, your brand, what you stand for, and then they get to know your soul, right? So to me, it's so important that we keep coming back to our guests. I mean, myself in the platform, that in my podcast, I try to get my guests to come on again and again and again, to peel that the curtain back more, to get to the inner core of the person. And also for Karen, we've come to this level whereby we're talking about the soul of your platforms, right? And then to me, it's so important for me to even want to spend time to you, to want to like shine that light, no matter how small our platform is. We try to have more people coming on board to put out the righteousness out there, to reach out to more people who need help, and also to get them to victims, to let them know the help that they are trying to get, because there's so many numbers, there's so many platforms, right? They have to choose the right platform. And not only that, the platform has got to market itself to reach out. I mean, right? It's a very dynamic situation. Righteous platforms have got to be given spaces to reach out to a greater audience.
Yes,
Isn't it?
exactly. And
yeah.
even in this righteousness and talking about the different community leaders that I have a relationship in our faith-based community.
Yeah.
And one that always sticks to me when one of the pastors has constantly said that he doesn't ever want to have another one of his members die due to domestic violence, and he didn't even know they were going through it. And so I'm excited for the community leaders and the pastors that trust the Jesus in me, was in me, that
Amen.
I'm able to go and speak to their congregations and
Amen.
work on it.
Exactly.
And to help build that platform,
because to me it's so important. The purity,
so important.
And the core of it is so important.
And that these resources are sitting in the churches so that people get the right information, and not paint a picture that this is okay. This is not okay. Yeah. Wow. That's really, really powerful, because you're putting doing things right and doing things righteously together. So I'm so glad that we have got you, Karen, for 1.5 hours, because to me, this is deeply important. To me, this is deeply important. I mean, we should go on. I mean, if you would like, we could go on and on and on, because not only are you helping victims, you're helping to save their souls, and you're helping them when no one can be around them, but God can be around them. I mean, that's the most important and powerful tool. And the thing is that I also want to reiterate that your platform accepts anyone of any faith, of any religion, of any color, of any income status, of any background, job status, of any language, even wherever they come from. There should be no discrimination at all. None whatsoever.
And that's the love of God. And that's the purity and the love of God. And I think that makes it powerful, because we stand for acceptance and God's love, because God has died for the world, for the world, literally, regardless of whom you are.
Absolutely.
Regardless of whom you are.
And that's where the I shall speak for her came from. It was like, I'm going to speak up. And I can speak the way that I need to speak, and I can do it. I'm excited for you too. And do this, and so that it can be done. It can be done, and I can do it without fear. I can do it without shame. I can do it without ridicule. And
to me, it's so important having the purity of the philosophy and the purity of the core value of your platforms. I am so honored to be associated with you, and I think honored to have God amongst us. Even as we speak right now, I am very sure that God hears our speeches. And, I hope that God will use us in a useful manner before we pass, because, our road is just limited. Our journey on this earth is just limited. Karen, is there a final... You've got another story, right? I told you to. Maybe we have to leave that for another occasion. Because you've got so much stories that you can share with us, and of course all these tools, and of course the objective of this podcast interview, this podcast publicity, it's all about Karen's platform and the workshop that we're working on, so that we can empower more people with awareness and empower more people with a message that they can identify situations to help other people directly or indirectly. Am I right, Karen?
Absolutely. And when I talk about stories and I say, go to my platform, Voice to Voice, The Survivor's Heart, because that's where individuals are invited to share their stories, their success stories, to talk about, how they were here, how they got from the bottom, from the pit, to now they're out and they're living successful stories there, because sharing your story is huge. it's an empowerment thing. It's a powerful thing, you know, and every time they do this or they speak on it, it's an act of bravery to help somebody else who doesn't, for whatever circumstances, don't want to come out and speak. And people they don't have to do this. So for us who can stand for you and speak, that we will do, you know, but the point of it is that even in my story, I had to own my story. It took courage to do this, you know, because I wanted to get rid, because when I was in that dark place, Jesus came in the dark place. And so I want to let individuals know that even when you're in the dark place, that's where he shines the brightest. Because you're saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired. And then my fear, you know, I want to add this really quick. Even in this time, you know, when I was going through the surgery, and I heard him say that even the doctor had to go in and he had to use the scalpel to scrape certain things away from me that was causing me to be physically ill. God said that for this next journey that I'm getting ready to go in this battle, in a serious war battle, a war battle with domestic violence, because it is a war, that I had to be reminded that he needed to also begin to use his tools, his scalpel, to scrape things away from me to prepare me for this battle. Because the battle is not ours, the battle is the Lord. And Jehovah Gabor is the God of war. He comes to fight those things. But when they talk about the fight of it, is to be prepared that when individuals are coming in, that I am protected. And that is within me will also transition into them, so that they find a place of safety, that when they can't pray for themselves, we're able to pray for them. When they can't encourage themselves, we know the right words to encourage them, do this through this journey. And even if they go back into that situation, they still know that we're praying for them, we haven't given up on them, and we know that they will get the victory.
Wow, that's powerful, Karen. I mean, to encapsulate them, that as the highlight of your session, I think there's no words I can describe. It's just power. And amen, amen, and amen to that. You know, without God, a lot of us, we would not have arrived at where we are right now, because of the power of you know, him being behind to push us through many situations.
Yes, you just said that. It's about, you know, it's about, you know, my story isn't over. I get to choose how I want it to end, you know, and then the only way that I got through it was I had to get through this. I had to press through it. I had to push through it. You know, even when people are saying you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you're telling this or that, I had to make a choice and to say, I'm here to help others go through what it needs to be done. You know, and so I do these things now in memory of my mother, Lucille Tanksley, in memory of her. She passed a year ago in February. Wow. And the last thing that my mom said as she was holding my hands, she said to me, don't give up. Don't let go. Keep holding on. I didn't understand what she was saying to me until I got really more quiet. And as she was holding my hand, and my mom said to me, hold on, don't give up. And so I continue to do the things that I do because of the foundation and the mantle that she's left on me and my sisters. And my mantle is different, but I know that this is my purpose and my journey. My mother was a praying mother, and guidance. And she was in every step. She was never ashamed of my story. She was always there to support in every aspect, every step that I took. And so I'm grateful because even though she's gone, even during this Good Friday and Resurrection Week, it is because of her dying that now even more has been instilled in me that I can make this, and that I can make this. And so I relay that. And when the word of God says that I knew you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. And so I say to victorious victims on the road to survivorship, don't give up. Look inside yourself,
Karen,
and find your strength and your truth.
I would like to dedicate this session to your mom and also my mother. My mother has gone home to the Lord in 2015, but we'll talk about that in our future sessions. Thank you so much, Karen. It's always such a session with you that goes like a blink of an eye. I hope I can always do something with you. Now, let's talk about that after the podcast. Let's see what we can do together using my platform. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap this up. We started off with Karen talking about her brand, her philosophy, and then she shared with us a story and also the 2 and 3 platforms that she has shared. And you can find the links below here and above there. Go to her platforms. And I personally want to also make a shout out to your platform. And this is what we do, because I can identify when I first met you at the International Summit. You will be someone that I would like to highlight quite a lot. And also through these sessions with you, as we peel off that, the onion peel, we are getting to the core. And I think there's so much to talk about as we get into the core, which is made up of the faith and the soul. You're touched, I can see, Karen. And I think that there's so much to share because we're going into this core thing, and I think I can see that, and I think the viewers and listeners can see for themselves. You're speaking from the place of purity, that God has given you this inspiration and the energy, the motivation to do this again and again, over and over again. And not many people can be doing something over and over again without pay. So I do think that God has called you to do something. And this is what you are called for. And the Bible says that we are called and we're given a lot of talents, right? Teachers, pastors, God has given a lot of talent, and we are supposed to use these talents to live the word and also to do God's word. And I think we can see that in you. And I'm so glad that we have connected through this digital platform. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to shine more light in a very humble way. We need God to take us to the digital world, to places, because we don't know where we're going, right? We just on and click it, and God is going to put us through so many channels and let people discover us, right?
Yes.
And I would think that getting the message out and marketing it is important, because people take less time to dig through the rubble of the internet. We're talking about the internet or the digital world, but we are just being piled with a lot of trash, actually.
Yes.
You should know that there's a dark web, that people making use of the tools of the internet, that people making use of the tools of the digital world to reach out in a very bad manner. So I think it is very important to push all these things and these distractions aside, and I would say that they're not just distractions. They are there to mislead and to misguide people. And that makes our job much more important as God's children, makes our job much more important, because not only we are reaching out to people like your platform victims, but also reaching out to people who need to see the light when the world is getting darker, really. We're going to spaces where light is being quashed with a lot of hard work from a lot of people who is not leading that righteous manner. So I think you know what I'm talking about. It makes it so much harder to go out, because you are being piled on above you a lot of trash in the digital world. It's getting harder and harder to get the path right. I mean, it's almost like Ukraine, right? You've got all this rubble, and then you are trying to push all this rubble away to get the path to the people. And then this rubble is going to pile on you again. And then you're trying to reach out. And then people are trying to find a way to reach to you. So I think it's very important for us to keep doing, Karen, keep doing what you do. And in my little world that God is trying to magnify, the digital world is a huge world, but God has given us tools in the digital world to at
reach
least
the masses.
Yes, to reach the masses. And our job is to get it right. And of course, stand firm and get ourselves established in righteousness. And I think that's so important. And thank you for your message at so many different level, Karen. It's been such an enlightening message that you have shared, and also such an enlightening message from the core of the soul of what you do. And I think the time is so well spent on so many different levels, and people who discover this, they really discover the jewel in them.
Yes.
Would you like to wrap up, Karen? The floor is yours for the next 10 seconds.
I just want to say again to you, Vicki, thank you for the opportunity to have this platform. And I look forward to us doing greater things in the way that he would have us to do.
Amen.
In that part. And it is my prayer that as we do these, that this has made a difference in someone's life, because it says that if I can just help one person along the way, then I know that my living shall not be in vain. As each one reach one, we can get the job done.
So you have touched my life, and I hope I've touched yours.
Yes.
So that's the objective of God already. So Karen, we should talk offline.
We will.
Yeah, we will talk offline.
Definitely.
And definitely, this will not be the final session that the audience will see of you. I'm very sure you will be coming here more often, to reach out to an international audience.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I will talk about it offline. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we do not have enough of Karen, right?
Yes. I've had enough of Karen.
I don't think we get enough of Karen. We need to have her back, and we need to strip her, and then we need to get into the core. And then we need to even continue within ourselves to polish ourselves with God's word into the purity that he designs for us and he desires for us. So thank you, Karen. Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you.
We will hear and see Karen again. We never have enough of her, because I'm going to press the button and she's going to go on for the next hour. which I love, which I love because there's so
Yes.
much of sharing, there's so much of understanding, and for me, there's so much of connection. Back to the basis, like I always like to have to develop a deeper relationship with my guests. And now you've become my friend, and also we have
Yes.
got a very special godly relationship.
Yes.
I think there is, and we can always, and we should always make use of our platform to do God's work,
Exactly.
We are called for that, no matter how small.
No
God is going to
matter how
magnify.
far. Exactly.
Yeah, because that's His job.
Wow.
We just have to put in that seed and the water, and the God is going to make it grow. Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. And again, everyone, have a great evening in Singapore and in the United States, all around the world. Continue to have a great day.
Yep, it's 12:15 a.m. It's a Saturday morning. Here it's still Friday. Is it Friday? Or is it Thursday there?
It's still Friday.
It's Friday or Thursday?
No, today's Friday. Good Friday.
Yes, Friday morning, right?
Yes.
On Saturday.
Well, we're in the lunch hour now. We started in the morning. Now it's after 12 o'clock. So
yeah, great.
Yes.
I hope to visit the US again. The last time
Definitely.
I was there.
Oh my goodness. Yes, come here. Yeah, yes.
The last time I was there, I went to California. I went to California. I went to Las Vegas, Anaheim, Disneyland. That's not representative of America. Disneyland. My husband has been to Ohio and a couple of places. I don't know where he has been. Definitely we should connect.
Yes.
And we must connect. And also let's see where God leads. The direction is for him in his will. But I do see that we must do our job.
Yes.
We have got our job cut up for us in this world. And thank you so much, Karen. We'll talk offline.
We'll talk
and
offline.
All the best. Yes, all the best. And ladies and gentlemen, that's Karen Alston, Karen Denise Alston, Miss Karen Denise Alston, all the way from the United States of America. And she is live from Savannah, Georgia. So we'll need to find out more about the geography next time from you. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, almost 2 hours from Karen. We never have enough for you, so don't run away. We'll come back to you again. Bye.
Excellent. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.